Hello, everybody. This is Uncle Hondo, your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer on Sports Illustrated and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. It's very good to be with you today. This is our Thursday coaching update and general manager search and coaching update. We got a lot of information that we want to get in with you today. In fact, 5 key points. But I want to start at the very top. If you are watching the process with any regularity, and the majority of you are noticing around the National Football League a lot of whining when it comes to Tom Brady, whether them saying he's at an unfair advantage or we better really watch him close on the broadcast. Is he tampering with Ben Johnson? Whatever it may be, the collective whining needs to remind you about the way there used to be collective whining about Al Davis. I think that is fascinating to me. And it's something I think that's warranted. I think a lot of Raiders should maybe take some solace and some peace in. Um, when Mark Davis came in, he certainly was not afraid to give an opinion, but there were a lot of people that talked about him being a deal maker and and working closely and well with the commissioner. And there's nothing wrong with that. You don't need to be obstinate just for the purpose of being obstinate. But I find it funny. The NFL owners complain about Tom Brady being a broadcaster and an owner, so they put all these rules on him, which are fine. He agreed to it. He gets his 37.5 million a year. He doesn't mind. And now he has all his free time because of all the rules. And so he's acting in his role as minority owner. And now they're whining about that. It's just humorous. It's funny. It's like ordering a grilled cheese sandwich and then getting mad when they bring you a ribeye because that's not what you ordered. Well, you know what? This is the world that the NFL owners created. Tom Brady is simply operating in that sphere. And for the first time in a long time, there's now genuine dislike and uh, complaining, whining, murmuring about the Raiders. And I think that's a very unique spot to find yourself. I have gotten several emails of people asking me, with the Patriots hiring of Mike Vrabel, why haven't the Raiders made a hire now? And there are a few things that you need to understand. First of all, if they wanted to hire a coach who's still working, that's not possible. Number two, Vrabel was not working. They were able to conduct other interviews, and so they were able to move quickly on Vrabel, talking about the Patriots. The Raiders are still involved in their process. Absolutely. Ben Johnson is the leader, period. He's still coaching. That's why I said on yesterday's podcast, I'd be shocked if they named a coach before the Lions are out of the playoffs. I mean, they're still going to bring guys in. Guys still want to see the facilities in person. They want to talk to people face to face, just not over Zoom, although they have talked. Um, there's a lot that goes into that. You're asking a person to pick up their entire family and move. So uh, I would tell you this, that first of all, they're not going to hire until they can meet face to face with the people they want. They could if they wanted to hire Pete Carroll. Absolutely, they could. But the longer it goes out, it tells you clearly they're waiting for somebody, even if it's just an interview, they're waiting for somebody who's still coaching. So, very clearly, Ben Johnson is the front runner. Absolutely. And as long as he's in it, you're going to see the delay. Why can't they just make it, make an announcement? It's not how it works. So it is what it is. But I think there's another thing here too that I want to caution all of you on, and that's that Ben Johnson is the clear front runner. Okay. If I had to predict today, I would say that it's going to be Ben Johnson. But the problem is it's not today. And so there's still a lot of teams. Ben Johnson is a very formidable uh, coach. He's a very sought after coach. Now, I know there's a big push for him in Chicago. Very aware of that. And I also know Chicago very much likes Mike McCarthy. In fact, he's taken a private plane up there from just outside Dallas today, and will be up there in Illinois to interview with the Bears. So they could move on and get McCarthy and that process move on. But there's still going to be there's opportunities with the Jaguars, who have been linked to Ben Johnson. The fact that they kept Trent Baalke, their uh, general manager, I think hurt them. But yet Shad Khan comes out, the owner of the Jags, and said he's willing to move a GM if he needs to. Again, I don't think anything changes if Ben Johnson is the favorite. There is definitely mutual respect and admiration between the Raiders and Ben and the Raiders. But I'm just saying it the longer things go out, who knows if the Raiders aren't going to lose a coach to money. So if somebody comes in and offers Ben an outrageous amount of money, that's not going to keep the Raiders if they're convinced that he's their guy. So I just think sometimes I know people don't like to tap the brakes. Sometimes I know people that's not really their thing to tap the brakes. But you need to also go back and look at the last couple searches when they hired Josh McDaniels. He was working with the Pats, but as soon as the Patriots were out, he was able to do something. Antonio Pierce was already in the building, was already a Raider employee, he wasn't working for another organization. So that's why it seems to you. And with Josh, I don't even think they hired him till like the 31st of January. So I know everyone wants to get the process done, but you need to understand there is a process. Now, when you talk about Ben, there is around the NFL, a total esprit de corps, maybe is the proper term, but total a collective wisdom, conventional wisdom that they're all hearing of great interest with the Raiders. There's also other teams that are in play that he may be interested in if it doesn't work out with the Raiders. So as you see those reports, I wouldn't be too panicked. There was a report yesterday of a team that he's allegedly had interest in, and I believe he did and still does if it doesn't work out with the Raiders. But every indication I'm getting from talking to people close to the situation and around the league is everyone thinks Ben Johnson will probably end up in Detroit. In Las Vegas, and but because of the process, I know some people are panicked. We talked yesterday about staff. We talked a lot about Robbie Leonard. Robbie Leonard is going to be a very hot commodity in the NFL. There are going to be a lot of teams that want Robbie Leonard, that desire him because he is not a good coach. He is a great coach. Now, yesterday, I texted someone, and I'm looking for my phone here. I got it right here. About they actually texted me after they saw my podcast, where I mentioned, the possibility of a Robbie Leonard staying as a defensive coordinator. Now, that would be a massive message to your defense, which is not the problem. You've got, some key free agents, some other guys that are, no guaranteed money left on their deal, like Max Crosby. That's a massive statement. I can tell you right now, to the defensive room, they all love Patrick Graham, but don't think Patrick's staying. Okay. So if that's the case and the Raiders can't keep Patrick, and I don't think they can, the next best move is go get Robbie Leonard. That entire room loves Robbie. In fact, it's really weird. The entire locker room loves Robbie Leonard, and he has certainly earned it. And if the Raiders allow him to go, it'll be, in my opinion, a colossal mistake. Now, whoever the new coach is, maybe has a tremendous defensive mind, super respected, to keep Robbie Leonard. Okay. I mean, to bring in their own guy. That's fine. And they will probably be very good. But I think there's bringing Robbie Leonard in as DC would do a lot for that locker room. Now, so here's the text I got from somebody, and this is what they said. Imagine this. Imagine if before this coaching cycle, I had told the Raiders, your new coach will be a man universally respected as an offensive rising star in this league and a football savant, and your new defensive coordinator would be the opposite on the defensive side of the ball. One of the top rising stars on defense and a defensive football savant. Don't you think they would have taken it? Boom. Robbie Leonard, Ben Johnson. So I think there's a lot there. Robbie Leonard is incredibly respected around the league. I asked somebody yesterday, how long would it take Robbie Leonard to find a new job if the Raiders didn't retain him? And he said, however long he wanted to interview and with how many teams. So, interesting angle there that I brought out yesterday about assembling a staff. I don't think the Raiders have any concern whatsoever about Ben Johnson's ability to put a staff together. Ben is extremely respected by a ton of people who respect him as a leader, the way he leads. I've asked multiple people, what do you think about him putting a staff together? And there was zero concerns, both in the organization and outside. So I think that's very, very fascinating. And I wanted to hit you with that. I have some insight into the process of looking for a general manager and a coach. So I talked with someone yesterday who is familiar with, in particular, one of the interviews on coaching, and one of them on the general manager side. That there may be more, but they're specifically on those two we discussed. And they said that I asked them about Mark Davis, and I said, "What would you come away with that you're hearing as far as an impression of Mark Davis?" Because some are trying to create the narrative that Tom Brady is running all over Mark Davis. And I've told you for the last year, he is going to have a monster voice. And then you saw Mark Davis at the owners' meeting say it's going to be a huge voice. But I've also told you it is going to be a voice that Mark lets him have. Mark's not a fanboy, just, ooh, it's Tom Brady. He respects him. He knows what he brings to the table. He wanted all that. But Mark isn't weak. And this is something that I have found fascinating. And I have found this in my personal experiences with Mark. But he has impressed people with listening. Now, in the past, I have been told by two people who knew the interview process with other searches that at Mark at times almost seemed a little bored with some of the interviews, which is fine. If you know this isn't the guy, let's just get it over with. I've interviewed people before and I have felt that way. But I found it fascinating that people talked about him being an intent listener. I think that's really cool. I think it dovetails with what he talked about at the owners' meetings on why he picked his new minority owners, the team he's building. And I thought that was an interesting piece of information that you would want. Let's go to the GM search. They had a tremendous interview yesterday with the gentleman from Green Bay. They've got other interviews lined up. I still 100% believe, and it is the conventional wisdom, that Spytek of Tampa Bay is the front runner for this job. He played football with Brady at Michigan. They have been very, very close. He was the key ingredient that got him to go to Tampa Bay. Him and Tom already have a commonality of interest They already understand the game the same. They look at the game the same. They scout the game the same. I was told by someone yesterday they would be stunned if he didn't get it just because of their relationship. And again, interest of full disclosure, I covered Spytek when he was an intern. Well, I covered the Lions, didn't specifically cover him. And back then, he was known as the Whiz Kid. They would give him 2 jobs, and he would come back with 4 done. He was into analysis. Everybody knew he wanted to be a GM. He talked about him wanting to be a GM and what his career was. And people had tremendous respect that even as a young intern, he was so thorough. And so, anyways, there you go. That's the excuse me. That is the latest on the GM. That obviously no one's been hired as of yet, and they're interviewing some very good candidates who are having very good interviews, and they're bringing in a lot of information. Now, sit with me for a minute and get where I'm going with this. So you sit a person down, and let's use Spytek from Tampa Bay, and you say to him, "What is your evaluation of our roster? We just played you. What's your evaluation of our roster? What do you think of it?" And you learn, okay, what's our weaknesses? What's our biggest strengths? What do you think about our reputation with free agents and the league? What would you do to improve our organization? What are the 5 biggest areas of our concerns? Go over our free agents. What are your thoughts on the scouting process? Do you have a board of who you think are some of the best players in this draft? All they're doing with every one of these is garnering information that even if they don't hire the person, they're getting free scouting reports and inside information from the people they compete with every single week in the National Football League. So Spytek is certainly the leader, like Johnson. Anything can happen. No deal is done. But as this process continues to inch forward, I think the coaching search, you just need to be patient for that, let that play out. But you're going to, as it continues to go, you are seeing the Raider way. Now, for how many years have we heard about the Patriot way, the Patriot way? And we learned Patriot way doesn't work without Tom Brady. But now Tom Brady's in here, and Tom's not trying to do the Patriot way. He's trying to do the Brady way. And when you look at his success in business with the TB12 brand, you look at his success in broadcasting, highest paid broadcaster in his first year. You look at all that he's done in his commercial businesses and his professional football career. This is a guy whose way has proven to be successful. So you trust that. And if you're a Raider, you got to you have the NFL mad again. So lots of great information here. I do want to give you a couple of names at coach that I think are guys that are going to get a lot of attention around the league. And I'm surprised they're not getting as much as of right now as far as talk. But Todd Monken at Baltimore, this guy's a legitimate, good coach. A very, very good coach. And that's a guy that's not getting a lot. And Pete Carroll, he's out there, and that guy's a great coach. I mean, he's a surefire Hall of Famer. So just, as you're watching the coaching search, I'm not saying that I think any of them right now is ahead of Ben Johnson, because I don't. But Cohn, the offensive coordinator at Tampa. So there's a lot of really good coaches out there. Aaron Glenn, the DC of the Lions, somebody's going to get a great coach in him. And we know about Patrick Graham, who I think what has hurt him is being in the Raider organization. I'm going to get him more into that after the Raider coaching search is over, because I think there's some very viable things I've heard around the league. But all of that, just to give you an update of where the Raiders are today, the process, where it's going, and how it's going. I appreciate all of you. I hope you have a wonderful Friday. And I, again, thank you for spending part of your day with me whenever you watch this. I greatly appreciate you. Thank you so much, and God bless you all.